Legal tender is a form of money that courts of law are required to recognize as satisfactory payment for any monetary debt. Each jurisdiction determines what is legal tender, but essentially it is anything which, when offered in payment of a debt, extinguishes the debt. There is no obligation on the creditor to accept the tendered payment, but the act of tendering the payment in legal tender discharges the debt. Some jurisdictions allow contract law to overrule the status of legal tender, allowing merchants to specify that they will not accept cash payments. Coins and banknotes are usually defined as legal tender in many countries, but personal checks, credit cards, and similar non-cash methods of payment are usually not. Some jurisdictions may include a specific foreign currency as legal tender, at times as its exclusive legal tender or concurrently with its domestic currency. Some jurisdictions may forbid or restrict payment made by other than legal tender. In some jurisdictions, legal tender can be refused as payment if no debt exists prior to the time of payment. For example, vending machines and transport staff do not have to accept the largest denomination of banknote. Shopkeepers may reject large banknotes, which is covered by the legal concept known as invitation to treat. The right, in many jurisdictions, of a trader to refuse to do business with any person means that a would-be purchaser may not force a purchase merely by presenting legal tender, as legal tender only must be accepted for debts already incurred. Under U.S. federal law, cash in U.S. dollars is a valid and legal offer of payment for antecedent debts when tendered to a creditor. By contrast, federal statutes do not require a seller to accept federal currency or coins as payment for goods or services simultaneously exchanged. Therefore, private businesses may formulate their own policies on whether to accept cash unless state law requires otherwise. The term legal tender is from Middle French tendre. Demonetization is the act of stripping a currency unit of its status as legal tender. It occurs whenever there is a change of national currency. The current form or forms of money is or are pulled from circulation and retired, often to be replaced with new notes or coins. Sometimes, a country completely replaces the old currency with new currency. The opposite of demonetization is remonetization, in which a form of payment is restored as legal tender. Coins and banknotes may cease to be legal tender if new notes of the same currency replace them or if a new currency is introduced replacing the former one. Examples of this are, 1,000 guilder notes are being declared invalid. That'll be a blow to the black marketeers and others like them, but even more to people in hiding and anyone else with money that can't be accounted for. To turn in 1,000 guilder bill, you have to be able to state how you came by it and provide proof. They can still be used to pay taxes, but only until next week. The 500 notes will lapse at the same time. Gies & Co. still had some unaccounted for 1,000 guilder bills, which they used to pay their estimated taxes for the coming years. So everything seems to be above board. Individual coins or banknotes can be demonetized and cease to be legal tender are not legal tender. But one of the criteria for legal protection under the Forgery and Counterfeiting Act is that banknotes must be payable on demand. Therefore, withdrawn notes remain a liability of the issuing bank without any time limits. In the case of the euro, coins and banknotes of former national currencies were in some cases considered legal tender from 1 January 1999 until the 28th of February 2002. Legally, those coins and banknotes were considered non-decimal subdivisions of the euro. When the Iraqi Swiss dinar ceased to be legal tender in Iraq, it still circulated in the northern Kurdish regions, and despite lacking government backing, it had a stable market value for more than a decade. This example is often cited to demonstrate that the value of a currency is not derived purely from its legal status. This is also true of the paper money issued by the Confederate States of America during the American Civil War. The Confederate currency became worthless by its own terms after the war, since it could only be redeemed a stated number of years after a peace treaty was signed between the Confederacy and the United States. Demonetization is currently prohibited in the United States, and the Coinage Act of 1965 applies to all U.S. coins and currency regardless of age. The closest historical equivalent in the U.S., other than Confederate money, was from 1933 to 1974, when the government banned most private ownership of gold bullion, including gold coins held for non-numismatic purposes. Now, however, even surviving pre-1933 gold coins are legal tender under the 1964 Act. Banknotes and coins may be withdrawn from circulation, but remain legal tender. United